Forever war is what Iran wants, and they're bringing us to the brink of nuclear war.
Can you guarantee that? Can President Trump in any form, can you make the commitment that this would not lead to a longer war?
I can guarantee you that if the Ayatollah gets a nuclear weapon, he will use it. I believe that with all my heart and soul. So the men and women who serve, they're the ones going, not people answering a poll. And if you ask them, would you be willing to risk your life to stop the Ayatollah from having a nuclear weapon? All of them would say yes.
Some of the people on the base don't want a long-term war. They're afraid that we're going to get into a long-term war.
We're not looking for a long-term war.
Yeah.
We're looking. I only want one thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Right.
That's it. I'm not looking long-term, short-term. And I've been saying that for 20 years. I've been saying it as a civilian who got a lot of publicity. People would cover it. Very simply, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's it. It's not a question of anything else. And if you did, you wouldn't have much of a country because they would use it on us and they'd use it on other people and they'd be a terror all over the world.
Yes, I'm sure President Trump has been saying this for the last 20 years, as well as all the other presidents all the way back to the 90s.
The deadline for attaining this goal is getting extremely close. And Iran, by the way, is also outpacing Iraq in the development of ballistic missile systems that they hope will reach the eastern seaboard of the United States within 15 years. By next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks, before they get enough enriched uranium for the first bomb. The foremost sponsor of global terrorism could be weeks away from having enough enriched uranium for an entire arsenal of nuclear weapons. That would place a militant Islamic terror regime weeks away from having the fissile material for an entire arsenal of nuclear bombs.
If not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year.
Welcome to the Unexplained Outlook. Things are heating up big time, seemingly towards World War III. Trump is demanding that Iran gets rid of any projects they have to build a nuclear weapon. They cannot have a nuclear weapon at all, according to President Trump. Now, Trump is saying that it's not a guarantee that U.S. troops will not end up on the ground, because if Iran attacks any of our facilities, any of our bases, if they hurt any American civilians, then it's on. So you best be prepared, because it could go down here very, very soon. We could be right on the brink of World War III, or even worse, nuclear war. Who knows? It's very possible. We are talking about making sure a country doesn't have a nuclear weapon. So who's to say that we don't end up in something that spirals out of control? Now, you guys should remember that President Trump was running on "I'm the anti-war guy, I'm the great peacemaker in chief" all the way back to 2016. But it just seems like with Israel, there's no way of avoiding this. We're always going to end up kissing Israel's behind and getting pulled into something that we don't need to get pulled into. So I think, unfortunately, in this situation, the great peacemaker in chief might end up getting us caught up in World War III. Let's hope not, but who's to say we don't end up in something, like I said, that spirals absolutely out of control. You know, we've got China and Russia are backing Iran. So it would be China, Russia, Iran against NATO and the United States. The world would be absolutely destroyed, because once one country decides to go nuclear, that's it.
They lied.
Okay.
They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none, and they knew there were none. There were no weapons of mass destruction. The war in Iraq, we spent $2 trillion, thousands of lives. We don't even have it. Iran is taking over Iraq with the second largest oil reserves in the world. Obviously, it was a mistake.
So
George Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East.
In the Ukraine, Russia, many, many more people. A building falls down, they say nobody was hurt. You know, it's ridiculous.
Why should not deportation?
Unconditional surrender. Two very simple words. A very simple, unconditional surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it. I give up. No more. Then we go blow up all the all the nuclear stuff that's all over the place there. No, they had bad intentions. For 40 years they've been saying death to America, death to Israel, death to anybody else that they didn't like. They were bullies. They were schoolyard bullies. And now they're not bullies anymore, but we'll see what happens. Look, nothing's finished until it's finished. War is very complex. A lot of bad things can happen.
Let's hope that Trump knows what he's doing. After all, he's been the guy saying that he's going to run on being anti-war. All the way back from his first election in 2016, he's been saying, we need to stay out of war, we need to stay out of Iran, we need to stay out of Iraq, all this different stuff. But look where we are now. Now let me get you guys up to speed really quick. In a crazy, stunning development, President Trump has declared that the United States now maintains full operational control over Iranian airspace. However, in a surprising twist, no bombs are falling. Instead, sources are suggesting that this is a highly unconventional approach, potentially safeguarding Iran's skies. The question is why? Allegedly, Iran may have acquired a staggering 3 terabytes of sensitive Israeli intelligence data just 3 days ago. Again, allegedly, this data could include the Epstein files. We all know what those are, unless you're living under a rock. Now, these files are rumored to be stored in servers in Tel Aviv and to contain explosive details implicating high-profile figures across the West. Now, what this means, that if this is true, they could use this as leverage against the United States and all of the elite leaders. Can you imagine that? That would be insane. That would be the ultimate Joker card. So we will see what comes out of that. It could be a bluff, but it could for sure give them an insane amount of leverage and potentially change the route of how this war will go.
War with Iran will be World War III. Iran is not alone, and it will not remain alone. With Russia, we are at possibility of peace, but we're also at a possibility of nuclear war. They're both very close. And if we go to war with Iran, we make nuclear war all the more likely.
Do you think that the people pushing us toward war with Iran understand that?
No, I think that they're following a plan, clean break, 1996, and a plan, 1991, 7 wars in 5 years, that has been deep set, and that has been Netanyahu's baby all the time. Netanyahu, I regard as one of the most delusional and dangerous people on the planet. He has engaged the United States so far in 6 disastrous wars, and he's aiming to engage us in yet one more. We're not standing up for Israel. We are engaging in war on Israel's behalf all over the Middle East. That's a completely different thing. Nothing that has happened in the Middle East has been for American national security. None of it. Not one of these wars. These have been Netanyahu's wars.
Okay, there you go. Let me know what you think in the comments and chat. A lot of positive perspectives on Jeffrey Sachs, because he's been pretty reliable throughout the this sort of latest apocalyptic episode, ain't he? Whether it's been Russia, Ukraine, or these new potential emerging conflicts.
Tucker Carlson recently had an interview with Ted Cruz, and the whole situation with Iran, the United States, Israel, it all is just sort of going to seem like a gimmick. And some people are speculating that the Trump administration is doing whatever they can to get us into this war.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah,
how could you not
know anything about the country? You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the
I'm
one
not saying that.
Who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here, because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive
No,
capacity.
we're not
at all.
bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting
This is
Israel.
high stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay.
If you still don't believe me, Trump is sending fighter jets to the Middle East. Right now, as we speak, aircraft carriers are already outside of India. He's got B-2 bombers, F-22s, and F-35s heading out there right now. Now, how is that any different from them sending aircraft to Ukraine? I mean, it's really the same thing if you're looking at it as an America First perspective. We're still giving our stuff to other countries, and it's still fighting a proxy war, which will inevitably get us caught up in World War III.
Here now with the details from the Pentagon tonight, our own Jennifer Griffin. Jennifer, what's going on?
Good evening, Sean. It's unusual for a U.S. president to foreshadow the use of U.S. military force, losing the element of surprise, but the president has been doing that since last night. After his meeting with the national security team in the White House Situation Room, President Trump called Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Dozens of Air Force refueling tankers have been deployed from the U.S. to Europe. All eyes now on Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, home to the B-2 stealth bombers, which are designed to carry two 30,000-pound GBU-57 bunker buster bombs. The massive ordnance penetrator, or MOP, the only conventional munition capable of reaching deep underground and into mountainsides and hitting the main nuclear site at Fordo, 120 miles south of Tehran and 300 feet underground. This video shows the GBU-57 bunker buster being tested by the U.S. Air Force in 2017 at White Sands Missile Range in New Mexico. If the president orders them to fly, it's a 30-hour round trip to the Middle East and would require multiple mid-air refueling, hence the pre-positioning of dozens of refueling tankers to Europe in recent days. Here at the Pentagon, Sean, many took note when the president said in a Truth Social post earlier today, quote, "We now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Soon we might know more about what that means." Sean?
Jennifer, one question. Do we have any idea? I know it's buried some 300 or 400 feet buried into the ground. We know these are 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs. How many may it take to totally eliminate that last facility?
Well, eliminate, it's hard to say, but usually the way this works, each B-2 can carry two of these bunker busters, these 30,000-pound bombs. They drop one, then they circle back, or a second bomber will circle and drop in the same spot. So usually it is a two-bomb process, if you will, where the missile will be dropped and then the second bunker buster is dropped in the exact same spot to get maximum effect.
And they're GPS guided with incredible precision. Jennifer Griffin at the Pentagon tonight. Thank you.
Lindsey Graham seems to like the idea of President Trump taking down the Iranian nuclear enrichment facilities. They are going to send those B-2 bombers over there. You guys mark my words. Be ready. By the way, have you started prepping yet? This might be a good time because you never know what life would be like if we actually had troops on the ground in our country on American soil. That would be insane. So always be prepared, always have a food supply, always have a way to get clean water, have a bug out vehicle, whatever you can get to keep yourself prepared for World War III, because we just don't know.
And I talked to the president last night. I just want to say this. I'm so glad he is where he is at. He's the right guy at the right time. He's calm as he can be. He's resolved. He's steady. I think he's done a marvelous job of handling this conflict. And I believe the sun is about to set on the Iran nuclear ambitions. They need our help, Israel does, to take out Fordo. They need help from us. I'm hoping the president will provide Israel the help they need to finish the job of the last nuclear site underground. And if we accomplish destroying the Iranian nuclear program, it will be historic for the region and historic for the world. This is a religious Nazi regime bent on purifying Islam, destroying the Jewish state, and coming after us. They're religious Nazis. And this regime does not need, nor can they ever have, a nuclear weapon. And Donald Trump is about to put a period on that statement.
So, Senator, we don't know for sure, but we believe that the meeting in the Situation Room with the National Security Council may be to decide whether or not the U.S. does dispatch B-2 bombers to take down the enrichment facility at Fordow. You believe firmly that the president should decide in the affirmative on that?
Well, I've said from the very beginning, it is in our national security interest to make sure Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon. They're an existential threat to our friends in Israel. They really do mean death to Israel, but they also mean death to America. There's no doubt in my mind that if the Ayatollah had a nuclear weapon, he would use it to destroy Israel as part of his religious agenda.
If we do take down Iran's nuclear enrichment facilities, you can almost guarantee a massive escalation will take place. I mean, who's to really say that they don't already have a nuclear weapon of some sort? They could have a dirty bomb. Who knows? They already have done crazy things before. It would not surprise me if they are hiding something and they already have access to something that would be devastating, and America would never look the same again if they were to use any kind of weapon like that. And we wouldn't even know if they had it. Who's to say?
The Iranians have stated that if the United States does take offensive action against them, they'll target U.S. bases and the U.S. Navy in the region. If we decimate their nuke site, we'll take away their only leverage, and they could lash out unpredictably. A dirty bomb, suicide bombers, assassination attempts. Who knows? We'd have to deal with the consequences. The United States targeting Iran's nuclear facilities doesn't necessarily lead to regime change. It could domino into regime change, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee it. The commander-in-chief has campaigned against regime change and expensive quagmires, but in the first term, he wasn't shy about taking decisive action to eliminate threats when opportunities presented themselves, striking Soleimani, al-Baghdadi, and bombing ISIS off the map. No one in the administration is considering putting boots on the ground. That's what we think. But bunker busters against Iranian nuke sites would be a bold and dramatic escalation. J.D. Vance says whatever he decides, Trump will make the right call. Quote, people are right to be worried about foreign entanglement after the last 25 years of idiotic foreign policy, but I believe the president has earned some trust on this issue. And having seen this up close and personal, I can assure you that he is only interested in using the American military to accomplish American people's goals. Whatever he does, that is his focus.
Can you guarantee that? Can President Trump in any form, can you make the commitment that this would not lead to a longer war?
I can guarantee you that if the Ayatollah gets a nuclear weapon, he will use it. I believe that with all my heart and soul. So the men and women who serve, they're the ones going, not people answering a poll. And if you ask them, would you be willing to risk your life to stop the Ayatollah from having a nuclear weapon? All of them would say yes.
So I think, unfortunately, in this situation, the great peacemaker in chief might end up getting us caught up in World War III. Let's hope not, but who's to say we don't end up in something, like I said, that spirals absolutely out of control. You know, we've got China and Russia are backing Iran. So it would be China, Russia, Iran against NATO and the United States. The world would be absolutely destroyed because once one country decides to go nuclear, that's it. Well, you guys let me know your thoughts down below. You are watching the Unexplained Outlook. Don't forget to subscribe on your way out. Make sure you are preparing yourself because we do not know how fast things could escalate. The world could be upside down before you know it. So always be prepared. Always make sure to have your life in order. Have your relationships in order with your loved ones because we could really be on the brink of World War III. I hope I'm wrong. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.